Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Zoning Board of Adjustment for September 19th, 2024. If you'd all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Right, and welcome everybody, and this is the Zoning Board of Adjustment, and I'm going to, as your host for the evening, we're going to start with our introductions all the way down to my far left, which would be
Gaspar Bimba.
Crystal Morin, Secretary.
and the Chair, Lynn Perkins,
Donald Burgess, member.
and we have Code Enforcement Robert Mackey with us, and our clerk Lucy Peoples. This is her first evening with us, and we hope for many more. Before we proceed, just everyone would shut off their cell phones, iPhones, iPads, anything that could create a distraction of the proceedings. In the event of an emergency, please exit directly to the rear of the room and do not use the elevator. Someone will assist you. We are audio, video recorded, and scheduled termination of this meeting is 10 p.m. Mr. Corbett may be remote, Vice Chair. As you see him on there, Mr. Preventure?
One moment, please.
I think I heard
Yes,
his voice.
there he
Very
is.
good. Mrs. Peoples will note that Mr. Corbett is remote for this evening, okay? And if there's no other expressions from the board before we proceed, we'll move on with the first case, which is...
Want me to do the phone numbers first?
No, I do not. Case number is 24-127, and that is the Modern Learning Center. And we'll do that right when
I do recuse myself, though.
you will recuse. Very good. So you'll step away. I'll take that. You can go to the audience. Mr. Obimba, would you sit on in this case,
Yes,
please?
Mr.
And
Chair.
Mrs. Peoples, would you note that Mrs. Moran has recused from the dais? All righty. All right. Ladies, how are you this evening?
Wonderful. How are you?
Very good. So much
Could you
bouncing around.
speak into the microphones, please?
Can you hear me?
Yes,
better?
we would politely ask that you lean towards the microphone so all could hear, and we
Wonderful.
pick you up on the recording. So,
That better?
I love it.
Okay, perfect.
and there will be no more whacking on the noses of the applicants, Mr. Tripp. All righty. So, ladies, we have we ask that you read your application as its entirety as you have written it, okay? And then the board will come back and grill you for questions, and we'll get some input from everybody near and far. Okay, so the floor is yours. Welcome.
Wonderful. Thank you for having us. My name is Elizabeth Shruhan, and I am from Modern Learning Associations. Question 1 was the variance will not be contrary to the public interest because we are utilizing an already existing space in a manner it is already used. 2, the spirit of the ordinance is observed because location of the property is within an industrial zone. Even though the building is within an industrial zone, we will not be using it for any industrial operations. 3, substantial justice is done because there is no loss to any individuals by having us occupy the already existing place. 4, the values of surrounding properties are not diminished because we are utilizing the existing structure as is in a manner that is already used. It will not affect surrounding properties. 5, literal enforcement of the provisions of the ordinance would result in unnecessary hardship. A, for the purpose of this subparagraph, unnecessary hardship means that owing to special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, no fair or substantial relationship exists between the general public purposes of the ordinance provision and the specific application of the provision to the property. Our answer, we are making no changes to the property. We are only occupying the space during the week and will not be doing any renovations. Aye. The proposed use is a reasonable one. Hosting our learning center inside building that is already following local zoning requirements. No changes are needed. And there was no answer to B.
All right, very good. Thank you. So feel free to elaborate and tell us what you're doing.
We run a nonprofit organization, and what we are doing is hosting a micro school, which is a learning center where we have approximately 10 max students to one teacher. Currently, we run one pod, and we host classes Monday through Thursday in shortened education days. So it would be from the hours of 9 a.m. until 2:30 p.m. That would be occupying the space. This is an alternative form of education that is being used and is offered to all families in New Hampshire who choose to not do public or private education for their children.
Is that it?
Mhm.
That's easy enough.
Yeah.
Can you define what a pod is?
A learning pod is, sorry, I'm Paige Jacobs. A learning pod is just a group of children.
You got to get a little closer to the mic.
A learning pod is a group of children in various age groups that are all learning together.
What are the age groups?
We have kindergarten to 9th grade.
That's a broad range.
Yes, it is.
And how many students in all?
We have 9 enrolled at the moment.
What's your dream occupancy?
We have a max of 10 for one teacher, and currently I am the lead teacher at the moment, and so we have a max of 10.
Going down the road, how many do you want to see?
We wouldn't have more than 30 in one location.
3 pods?
Correct.
Got it. I'm a fast learner. Open the questions to the board. Anybody wish to ask any questions?
Yeah, how do you teach that variety of children? I mean, what are you teaching? What are I'm trying to get a feel for what this is.
Absolutely.
You got 10 kids and they're different ages, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
So the way that it works is there's a lot of scientifically proven curriculum that we use that is computer-based, where each child is learning in their own level. And so that is what we call our independent work time, where they're working at their pace and they don't have to match up to their students. And so they're working at their own pace for independent work. And then we use multiple group studies and novel studies that actually are geared towards multiple ages. We really fit that like old school one-room schoolhouse feel from back in the day, where then we have our older students that are helping our younger students, and it really just helps everybody thrive, not only in their educational purposes, but also in their personality of working together and living in a community and working together.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Burgess, some sense in Little House on the Prairie there. What do you think?
There you go.
We hear that way too often.
Yeah. Mr. Dietzel, anything?
No, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Tripp?
Yes, I have a couple questions. So this is a 600 square foot room?
Approximately. So in the room is 3 offices, which I would describe breaking off of the main area. And so there's about 600 feet in the room, and one room is our library dedicated room, and then the other room is our art room, and then there's the main room, and then an office room. So within that specific 600 square feet is the location. However, the church has allowed us access to a shared giant room off of that. That is also about,
We've estimated it's about a total of 3,000 square feet altogether that we have access to during our time there.
correct.
So you said that the primary facility is 600 square feet, and that you'll be using. Now, are these the same size rooms?
No, they're all about a different various of sizes. There's a large room in the center with 3 smaller rooms broken off with access to the main room in the middle. And then right off of that main room, that's our dedicated area, is about a 2,000 plus square foot room dedicated to Journey Church's Children's Center that we have access to during our duration of being there. So,
But the facility that you're asking the variance on is 600 square feet.
no, it's the total area of the children's space dedicated to Journey Church. We have a Journey Church member here with us as well that she might know a little more
Probably
details.
better
Well,
explain
the reason I
footage.
asked that
of
question
the-
is there's a letter It says, "To whom it may concern, we are Modern Learning Association, da-da-da-da-da, and the space that we are trying to occupy is approximately 600 square feet."
Okay, so yeah, so the 600 square feet room is the one room with the 3 off rooms that is
Which would be the
dedicated to.
classroom areas?
Yep, it's dedicated to just our Modern Learning Association, and then the other 2,000 plus square foot room is dedicated to us and the church. So the 600 square foot room, we are not sharing with the church, even though they do have access to that through
Thank
Key.
you, thank you.
Yes.
Now, this goes on to say that the class size would be approximately 10 per class,
Yes.
all right? And you intend to have classes from kindergarten to 9?
Yes.
All right. So I would assume that some of these classes would be merged, and that it might be K through 3, and then 4 through 6, and,
So between the 9 children that are enrolled, it's K through 9, and we have the same 9 children Monday through Thursday, 9 to 2:30 p.m. And so we have the same group of children every single day with that age range.
but I would expect that you intend to grow.
Correct.
Correct.
3 pods.
3 pods?
3 pods, 1
Three
location,
pods.
yes.
So the 3 pods would be a mixture of classes?
Correct. So the pod learning setup and how it is run is that it doesn't have to be specific age children with specific age children. The idea is to have a range of children. Correct, yes, I could have a specific pod that is K through 3, and then another 4 through 6, and then another 7 through 9, if I wanted to.
Yeah.
Or if the pod leader would like to have it that way, or not. But yes, that is an option that
It
could
all
have it.
depends on the learning abilities of the children.
Well, it depends on the willingness of the pod leader or the teacher.
Oh,
For
As
the
well
rights,
as
as well as,
the enrollment.
The enrollment.
And what types of children we have.
correct.
okay.
The goal is to cater to each child's individual needs and work within that means.
So,
I'm guessing that you probably take the talents and skills of all the age groups and try to combine them into groups where they're going to work off of one another. Is that about it, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, we
mean-
mostly work all together, and it's kind of just a little, almost like a family, like they're brothers and sisters at this point, and they work really well together.
I did learn something on the school board, Richard.
well, that's good. I don't see a drawing of what the interior or the spaces that you'd be using in your packet.
Well, I might think that, perhaps we want to look at the impact of what the use that's being requested here has within that zone, that industrial zone, and whether or not it's going to impact. Typically, and I think we can go to staff very shortly, what might indicate that the usage will be monitored and inspected by the municipality. So outside of that area of the space, they've just indicated that the impact of this is probably 600 square feet out of that building.
Yeah. Well, I was wondering, is there a license required for you to operate this facility?
There's nothing required by the Board of Education. We had cleared what we were doing with the Board of Education
Okay.
prior to moving forward with our company design, and we did get a letter from somebody from the Board of
Department of
Education.
Education.
Okay.
Correct.
Well-
Yeah,
That's always important to know,
absolutely, yes.
because I'd hate to give you the authority to run something that you have no.
Authority to do. Yeah. Understandable.
Is this deemed an official charter school or not?
No.
We technically work with children that are registered in the state as homeschooled,
Okay.
and then their parents decide how they are educated from that point on.
So the parents pay for their education essentially privately? I see.
Yes, we also are a vendor through the Educational Freedom Act account.
I see. All right, very good. Mr. Tripp, anything else?
Not presently.
Very good. Mr. Obimba?
Is the program currently running?
One more time?
Yes. The program
is-
is currently running. However, we are running out of a donated space from Marion Garrish Center, who offered up a free
Okay, so it's not
run
running
for
at the
us to
current
run until we got
location.
approval here. No, we didn't run or host anything at our location until we met here tonight.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Tripp?
One more thing, I guess. So since you have a facility that is roughly 600 square feet, and you intend to run your company K through 9, is there any limitation on the number of children that you have in this facility?
By limitation, what do you mean exactly?
Well, it seems like 600 square feet is not a terribly large area, especially when it's 3 pods. You know, it's 3 pods, so each pod
Right.
would probably be about 200 square feet. You know, and I just wonder, you know, how many applicants you'll be accepting into this company.
Well, currently, right now, we only have one teacher, and it's a 1 to 10 ratio. And at this time, even if we were to grow, we would only grow up as far as the next pod leader would want to. So technically, we are only occupying that specific 600 square feet with permission to access and use a 200 square foot area, 2,000, excuse me, square foot area as well. So 9 children at the moment in a 600 square foot area with access to another 2,000 square feet.
So,
With
so
the-
this is just your current space usage, and the space usage would grow with the number of children.
Right, if there was enough locations available in Derry currently right now where we would like to be and set our roots down in for us to purchase, and we had all the funds in the world and everything, we would buy our own area. Unfortunately, that's just not where we're at right now, so we are renting the small space from them with the access to the larger space to use as a temporary, and we wanted to make sure we did everything by the book here. So that's why we asked for the variance and the
Code enforcement has not kicked in the door of the Early Learning Center. Richard?
Okay, well then I will let other people ask questions.
Very good. Mr. Corbett?
Mr. Chair, you asked my question regarding the charter status. Mr. Obimba asked or covered about whether or not they're currently operating at 5 Tinkham. Otherwise, I'm good for the moment.
Very good. Let's go over to staff. Mr. Mackey? And if you'd like to enlighten us about fire loading of people, you're welcome to do so.
Okay, well, obviously, the proposal is to operate this one learning center out of the current church that is there. They needed to come for the board for a variance because the church is located in the Industrial 4 zoning district, which if you look at the permitted uses, does not specifically list educational facilities. So that's why it was felt they needed this variance. I know that the operation, well, if you've been onto the site, you'll see there's plenty of parking there. I know the operation is going to operate when the church basically isn't in operation. This is, I think, a Monday through Friday scenario. And then obviously, were they to be successful here tonight, there would need to be inspections performed by the appropriate agencies, fire department, my office, to go through, check the space, make sure the proper egress and the other things that would come into play. Then we would issue a certificate of occupancy for them to be able to operate.
Very good. Anything else? Mr. Tripp, you have anything to follow up on?
I guess, so the fire department would have the final say in how many people could be in the space.
We did already meet with the fire department, and they did walk through the space with us, and our only requirement from the fire department was that we needed to host regular fire drills so that our staff and our children were aware of what to do in an emergency.
So there's no sign that says maximum capacity is 125 people?
Not that we were aware of and not that we were told.
You might want to ask.
Are we asking the fire department that?
Yeah.
Yeah, he did not mention anything. I had told him what our overall goal was,
Yeah.
and nothing was said at the time.
All right, well,
Mr. Mackey, the overall space of the building, I think, would dictate and to Mr. Tripp's point, in the building code, you have certain load capacities for rooms, which also determine which way doors swing open and how they operate in emergency.
Right. So there's a lot of things in the building and the life safety code, even though they may not be licensed through the state, that would still need to apply. It may not have been mentioned about an occupancy limit just based on what they're proposing to have for students versus what's there for square footage now. It's probably not an issue.
Yeah.
But there are rules that would govern that within the codes.
Anything else, Mr. Tripp?
Well, I'm waiting for other people to talk.
Okay.
Okay, well, I think everybody, Mr. Burgess, please.
Okay, we're going with the 600 square feet. So each one of the rooms would be 200 square feet approximately.
I am not an expert in this area, but I would assume the first room that we walk into is the largest room, which would
Okay.
probably be at least 300 square feet.
Okay.
And then the other rooms are quite smaller. One is the smallest room that we have occupied as an office space. So that's more of like our storage closet for school materials. But the largest room is about 300 square feet. We originally estimate about 10 square feet per child is the decent enough area for a learning space.
So 30 kids, roughly.
Yes,
Something like
we,
that,
30 kids signed up for our first year is a dream.
Yeah, I know. I'm just getting into numbers. That's it.
Right. We don't anticipate having 30 children signed up for our first year. We definitely plan on leaving it at the one pod with the 10 children for the first school year, which is running from September until May 2025.
So if you had more children, you wouldn't be able to fit it in that 600 square feet, it'd be beyond 30.
That's where we would be utilizing the larger shared space with Journey Church that we have the access to, which we need to go into that space just to get to our own space anyway. And so our space that's designated just to Modern Learning Association is off of the large children's room. And so the large children's room is just a big open 2,000 square foot plus room. We ran over with fire about how it has 2 entrances for fire exits, and so 2 points of access. We went over all the safety concerns and everything. But yes, so we have full access in that 2,000 plus square feet to utilize every single day that we are there and operating. So if we did happen to have 30 kids sign up over the next month or so, we would have over 2,000 square feet total every single day to utilize for that purpose.
2,000 square feet
Over 2,000 square feet.
for 30 kids.
Yes.
Okay. I thought, see, because we had the 300 square feet of the one classroom. And so how many do you expect to put in each classroom? Just because.
So the way that we have it set up is we have multiple learning spaces because kids learn differently. So like Elizabeth was explaining, we have a specific smaller room that is set up as more of a library with more comfort seating. We have one room that's set up more like an art room with more just regular chairs and tables. And then we have our main area that has a rocking chair, wobble stools. It's got some different kinds of seatings because the children all learn in different ways, and that's what we foster in what we are doing. And so we also have yoga mats that get spread out throughout that, or will be getting spread out throughout that 2,000 square feet. So if kids want to kind of lounge out while they're doing their independent work or they're reading, they have that type of space to do so.
And with the younger children's a little nap time, I assume, occasionally.
No, they're older than that.
They're all going to be wearing it? Okay.
So just, to bring our focus back, understand that this is a use variance request, not a overview of the board to measure out spaces. And so I just want to caution us that our questions, though, and this is an enlightening process to new form of education. Just want to make sure the board understands that this is a use purpose. Anything else, Mr. Burgess?
No, I guess that's about it.
Mr. Tripp?
I guess this would be for Mr. Mackey. I don't believe that operating the church is a approved use, is it? So does the church have a variance to operate in this?
The state law, well, that particular church was there and predated that change in the town's local zoning. Then the state stepped in and basically there's a law now, you can't keep churches out of any zone essentially. So,
As soon as I was asking that question, I remembered that.
yeah.
So
All right. So you're all set, Mr. Tripp?
I finally am.
And Mr. Obimba, who's sitting in for Mrs. Moran, you're all set?
All set, Mr. Chair.
All right. And Mr. Corbett, you're all set as well?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Very good, thank you. All right, well, let's open it up to public then, and that's where the phone numbers would come in. And I would just inform the applicants that we open this up to public, both for and against your application, see if we have any input before we make a decision. That being said, you're going to have some, these calls for anybody who wishes to speak in favor of this application. This would be a time to come forward. You'll see the phone numbers on the screen. It's 646-558-8656. And at the prompting, you would just enter the ID code, which is 323-909-140. As you see on the screen, in the event that you have any technical problems, the phone number is 603-845-5585, and our clerk, Lucy Peoples, will help direct you back to the board. That being said, in the event that you want to be heard just in your remote, please press *9 on your phone, and we'll cue you in through our producer. You see anybody out there, Mr. Preventure?
Checking now, Mr. Chair. One moment.
Anybody in the room wish to speak in favor of this? Very good. So ladies, I'll ask you to step back and you'll have a chance to rebut anything that's said, okay?
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, we're seeing none rise online at this
All right,
time.
very good. And bring the butter forward. And good evening.
Good evening.
And identify if you would.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Identify yourself if you would.
Yes, my name's Reverend Tabatha Lesko. I am the associate pastor at Journey Church at 5 Tinkham in Derry.
Okay. And you wish to say what?
And I would like to support the variance for Modern Learning Association in order to utilize it's about altogether 3,000 square feet of the existing Journey Church, Monday through Friday. The dedicated spot that they keep talking about, that's 600 square feet, we are saying is dedicated to them, so that way they can lock it for security purposes for any children's information that needs to remain there, along with their learning, so that way it's kept private. Even when we meet as a church, no one would have access to that except for the church board in case of an emergency.
Very good. Anybody have any questions for this abutter? Or owner, I guess, Reverend? No? Okay. Mr. Corbett, I presume you're all set as well.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
All right, very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody else wish to speak in favor of this application? Seeing no gestures there and nobody outside there, Mr. Preventure?
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
All right, very good. At this time, we'll take anybody who wishes to oppose this application. This would be your opportunity to be heard. Likewise, if you're remote, just press *9 and we'll let you into the meeting. And you're seeing no gestures there, Mr. Preventure?
Seeing none, Mr. Chair.
All right, and I see no one rise in the room, so we'll consider ourselves to have met the statutes for public input, and therefore, if we could have the applicants come back up. And you're welcome to give us any last feedback before we deliberate on this.
No, I
Nothing
think
else to
we've
say?
About covered it.
Okay, very good. At this time, we could take a motion and go into deliberation.
So moved.
Mr. Tripp has that motion. Do I
I'll
have
make a second on that.
Mr. Burgess follows with the second for that motion. All in favor of deliberation, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Who would like to lead the deliberation? Mr. Burgess? No?
Excuse me, no. Thank you. No, my throat's not going to.
You want us to go get that AED machine and bring it back?
There you go.
All right. Anything from you, sir?
No, I have nothing really.
All All right, very good. Mr. Obimba?
It's a reasonable use of the space given the occupancy during the time for which they request. I think it's not an excessive request. You've had the testimony from the associate pastor. They have over 3,000 square feet. I think that's more than sufficient for the. If they were to expand to a max of 3 pods, they'll still have enough space to and parking and space to handle the kids. So I feel like it's a reasonable request.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Obimba. Mr. Tripp?
Well, I've heard of organizations like this previously in the state and in other states. I believe that the space available is suitable for what you want to do. And I'm sure if you grow to the point where you need more space, you'll find another space to go into. You know, it's one of these things that needs space. So, you know, you don't want to take on too much long-term, you know, cost, you know, when you're just starting. So I see no problem with the Modern Learning Association using this facility for the purpose requested.
All right, very good, Mr. Tripp. Thank you. Mr. Corbett, anything?
I had questions about, or curiosities about the curriculum. I think that, you know, the board had been raising, but understanding that's really not part of the purview for this. I think we've had requests in the past about what's a reasonable use for a church. I think an educational use is always good use or a good alternative to that. I think considering the location, I don't have an issue with this either. I think it's a good use.
Excellent, very good, thank you. And so far, I see no problems with this. I don't see any issues relative to the industrial zone. Understanding we have a car repair center, we have other industrial uses in that zone, but they're low key, and I think that overall, I don't see any hazard to the occupants or to that zone usage to the other abutters. So that being said, we could structure the motion. The motion would be first condition, space will need to comply with all applicable building code, building, fire, and life safety regulations. Is there anything else that anybody would like to add as a condition to this motion? All set?
Goal set.
Seeing no gestures from anybody, again, I think Mr. Corbett, you seem to be fine with that?
Yes, I'm good, Mr. Chair.
Very good, okay. With that being said, let's take a motion to leave deliberation.
So moved.
Mr. Tripp moves the motion. Second is from?
I'll make a
Mr.
second.
Burgess has a second on that motion coming out of deliberation. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Very good. And whereas Mrs. Moran has recused herself, I will read the motion for the record. I make a motion to the board on case 24-127 for Modern Learning Center. Owner of the building is Londonderry Church of the Nazarene, to grant a variance to the terms of Article 6, Section 165-42.a of the Town of Derry zoning ordinance to allow the operation of the Modern Learning Center at the property. Parcel ID number is 35015-004, zoned industrial 4 use, and was presented with the following conditions. The space will need to comply with all applicable building and fire and life safety regulations. All state town permits and inspections will be applicable. That completes the reading of this motion. Could I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Obimba. Very good. That motion is on the floor. But before we proceed that way, let's get into the finding of fact. The finding of fact, the Modern Learning Center, case number 24-127. The applicant is in the Industrial 4 zoning district. The applicants would like to operate an educational facility. The facility is currently operating as a church, which, as we know, is allowed in any zone. Are there any amendments to that finding of fact anybody wishes to add? Hearing pause and no gestures from anybody on the board. Again, I think, Mr. Corbett, you're all set?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Very good. The board also includes all facts found in the meeting minutes for this application, incorporates all meeting minutes into its finding of facts and decisions. All in favor of moving that vote for, that motion for a vote, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing no opposition to that, Mr. Corbett,
I vote yes.
Mr. Obimba,
Yes.
and Mr. Burgess.
Yes.
Mr. Tripp?
Yes.
And the chair will make that unanimous, so your application has been approved by a vote of 5-0. Congratulations on your new endeavor, and we wish you the best. Anybody who is aggrieved by this decision, of course, has 30 days to ask this board for reconsideration. Beyond that, it would be to the Superior Court. Very well. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And Mrs. Moran will return back up to the dais with us. All right. And so we'll read those just before, before we go to public, right? Okay, good enough. All right, next case up is case number 124-128, Promised Land Survey, LLC, owner J. Goga Realty, LLC. Parcel ID is 39033 50 East Derry Road, and this is in the medium-density residential zone. Good evening, gentlemen, Mr. Peliquin and company. Welcome aboard, and of course, Mr. Peliquin, you recall our
Procedure?
procedure, yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. So good evening.
I love it when people know where I'm going and they can finish what I was going to say.
Yeah.
And welcome back.
Thank you. Good evening. For the record, my name is Tim Peliquin from Promised Land Survey, representing J. Goga Realty. And did I get that right, Sam? J.
Yes,
Goga
that's right, J. Goga,
Realty,
yes.
Inc. And next to me is Sam Patel. Sam and Lena Patel are the owners of the establishment. So we're asking a variance.
Before you proceed, I just would like to mention that it doesn't come up later. I did request a motion or a formal letter of representation, and just so the board knows, we do have that on record in the file with Mr. Patel accompanying Mr. Peliquin. I would say that that is still in good standing, correct?
Yes,
Very
correct.
good. Just didn't want it to come up from anybody else later on, and there I will leave you uninterrupted.
And it was in the packet, just for the record, right?
Got it.
Originally. Okay, thank you. So so this is a variance requesting an electronic messaging sign for the East Derry General Store and Tavern. So the variance will not be contrary to the public interest because what I cite is East Derry General Store has been in existence for about 200 years, I think greater than 200 years, and is a hallmark to the area. The new sign is tasteful and placed in an ideal location. The spirit of the ordinance is observed because the new sign will allow this business to operate in a manner consistent with other like stores and restaurants in Derry and be competitive as such. Substantial justice is done because this store and restaurant will be able to advertise their centuries-old business at this grandfathered location in a more effective way. The values of the surrounding properties are not diminished because the sign as depicted on attachment is tasteful and may be considered an improvement and betterment to the existing sign, and literal enforcement of the provisions of the ordinance would result in an unnecessary hardship because signs of this nature are critical for businesses of this type in any area of Derry or the surrounding area. The proposed use is a reasonable one because the owners of this fine establishment will be able to be competitive with other like businesses in Derry and the surrounding area. And if the criteria in this subparagraph A were not established or are not established, an unnecessary hardship will be deemed to exist, ... I'll just say what I just cite here, and it's not really germane to that argument, but East Derry General Store has garnished support of its followers, because I just wanted to make mention of this, and community. There's an attached support letter and petition that has been provided, and has been a vital, and this is ensuring this has been a vital part of the community for centuries, literally. Granting this variance is reasonable to assure the longevity of the business. So basically, in your packet, you'll see, one thing you will see is a letter that was written by others petitioning their support of this business and establishment. And there's over 100 signatures and addresses affixed to that, just to show that they've garnished the support of their customers and their neighbors. Additionally, the most important thing you'd probably see in your packet is the 11 by 17 in the back. Of course, you have the location of this on the tax map of where this parcel is, and I sort of put a highlight on that, or a star, as well as give you an overview of the tax map of the area. But the electronic message sign itself, produced by New Hampshire Signs, I will say that Peter, the owner of New Hampshire Signs, is here and present, and Fred, his associate, is also here, that if there's any specific questions as to the sign, how it operates, things like that, they'll be glad to probably try to answer any of the questions related to that. But I will say this sign, as you see, is tasteful. It's replacing an old Coca-Cola sign affixed next to closer to the building and behind a roof line that doesn't serve them well. That sign has been there for decades, and this new, more modern-looking sign will help them to advertise their business, their general store that, again, has been around for centuries, and the tavern that's around back, as well as their special events, various things that will show up there. And I will also say that the Patels, anybody that knows them, knows how community-friendly they are, extremely community-friendly to the town of Derry and all its patrons, and would be very willing and amicable to advertise on occasion things such as Vote Today or blood drive at wherever, various things. We do understand that the sign is not to have too much fireworks associated with it, if you will, because that can be a distraction to the road. But where it's tastefully done, and it will be only lit during the business hours. So with all that said, it's just allowing them to effectively compete. It's the only general store, it's the only store in East Derry, it's the only restaurant in East Derry, and it's allowing them to effectively compete with their surrounding area in the most modern and tasteful way to replace this sign. So with that said, I'll pause and probably answer any questions of the board unless I missed anything. Sam, I want to make sure you have an opportunity to say anything if you have.
Oh, okay. Okay, so this is how we come up the idea, like how we need a bigger sign. We've been there over 20 years, and we never knew that we really need a bigger sign until we got so many businesses going on in the same building. We have a general store. It's not a general store anymore. It's a general store. We do beer and wine. We have a takeout food delivery option also, and we have a tavern behind the building. So what's happened usually, we do, every customer dine in with us, we give them feedback forms, and most frequent suggestion we receive from them is that we need a larger and more visible sign. Sometimes we notice the customer like 4 miles, they live like 2 miles, 4 miles in area, and they've been there 4 or 5 years. They never knew we have a East Derry Tavern behind the building. When they ask their neighbor and they talk about it, and neighbors say, if you want a really good food in Derry, go to East Derry Tavern. Then they found out, and then they let us know, oh my God, I live 5-6 years, and we never knew about it. Also, we've been there over 20 years, and we never changed any exterior building. We have everything the same way to respect the historic district. So we never did anything like put up another building behind it or anything like that. You can still see it's still 200 years old building. It's nothing changed. And we did many, many improvements toward it. We had opportunity to put so many cigarette sign, beer sign, wine sign. If you look at more convenience store and gas station in a town, they're like fully covered with all the cigarettes and beer, wine, and all those signs. We have no signage in our building. We do respect historic society, and we want to make sure it looks as historic as possible. So as I say, this is not just a general store. Now we have multiple things going on. We have multiple weekly events going on our tavern. We have a Martini Monday, Tuesday we have Indian night, Wednesday we have trivia night. We have a weekend special food and drinks every weekend. Our chef do really hard work and put out weekend special every week, different one, and people love those. Sunday we have a prime rib night, prime rib special on Sunday. And you can see those meats are expensive and those cooked only once. If you don't sell enough, it's all waste. So we want to make sure we represent proper signage that people know that there is a Sunday is a prime rib night. We also have a beer dinner night. We have a wine night. We do comedy nights. We have live music. It's one building does so many businesses. So I think if we don't keep up with the modern business needs, it could threaten our ability to stay in a business. This is what we were thinking. This sign is just not benefit us. It would support the Upper Village Hall next door. We have Upper Village Hall next door. They do rent out for a wedding venue. They do for like a small baby shower, birthday party. So many events is happening over there. Community can participate on those events, but no one knows about it. No proper signage outside. They have opportunity to put it out. So this sign will help them as well, that if something going on. Half of people in a town, Derry, don't even know about that Upper Village Hall is existing, and they do wedding. They can rent for wedding, baby showers, and a lot of other events. No one knew about it. And if you look at other venue in a town of Derry, they booked out for 6-7 months for wedding and baby shower and all that. Versus Upper Village Hall has no business, not as much. Same way across the street's the library.
Taylor Library.
Taylor Library. Taylor Library does so many things as well. Not many people find out. Half of Derry even don't know there is a second library in town. We can represent on our sign that library open, library closed, what's going on in library. Town put electronic message sign for Broadway Library, the big library we have in town. They put a really nice big electronic signage just for library. Here we have opportunity for library as well. Across the street there is a church. The church has a lot of fundraising events going on. They have so many events, free spaghetti dinner, so many things. Those we can represent on our sign. We have East Derry Tavern next door, East Derry Tire next door. We have a post office in our building. Half a town don't even know that there is a second post office in a building. We can represent, we can show everything on our signage. It will help entire East Derry community. It will help us so much.
That wrap
While,
up your
while
time?
Sam gets his thoughts together, I'll just say that anybody that does, again, know Sam and Lena Patel, know they're very sincere, and I said this before, but I just want to be clear on this, on their community involvement. And they're not just saying they'll help their neighbors and anybody in the community that needs advertisement. At times, that's appropriate, that they will do that. So it really is something that I think is special that's being proposed in terms of this sign. Anything
Yeah.
else, Sammy?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
what I would say pretty much. Like, we've been there over 20 years, and we try our best. We want to stay in a business. Yes, we want to continue. We want a community service and all that, but we do need a proper message center that we can tell people that this is things going on, and it helps us. And we know we are in MDR zone. We can assure that our sign will comply with the town and town of Derry rules and regulation regarding any electronic message center. We've been there our town is there last 6 years, and always close down on time, like 9 o'clock we close down. We know we are in a neighborhood, we have no issue, we have no neighbor complaint, nothing. We always run really nice way.
It's true.
So let's stick to the, hone in on the purpose of this sign, correct? And what it's doing and its specific violation to that zone, if we can. You currently have a sign, I think it lights at night, correct?
No.
That
Backlit.
sign does not, I'm sorry?
It has like a backlight too.
That's what I thought. The
Yeah.
sign,
Yeah, a little
the
spot
on the
light.
roof.
yeah.
On
So
the
it
roof
has a
sign, yeah.
light there. Why not just replace the sign that's there and eliminating the idea currently that you're here for, which is the type of illumination, am I correct, Mr. Mackey?
Well, if you,
It's the electronic digital messaging.
Right,
Yeah,
right. I
that
mean,
we're-
that's essentially why they're here, because that electronic message center signs are only allowed in the general commercial being basically going up Crystal Ave, the industrial 4, which is up by Walmart, and then the GC, or the general commercial 4, which is down along Ryan's Hill as you head down towards Wyndham. So only allowed in those 3 areas.
Got it, okay.
and one thing I can say, just to answer
Thank
your
you, Mr.
question.
Mackey.
I'm sorry to
Oh,
interrupt.
go ahead.
If you look at the 11 by 17 sign exhibit, where we're proposing the sign, you can actually see the Coca-Cola sign behind the roof,
Right.
behind the, it's not visible. It's highly unvisible to replace the sign where it currently exists.
Okay,
And I would say to the chair, I want to say about it that we do have that sign last 20 years. We still see people that, oh, I've been there 6 years. I never knew this is this. We signage is still there, but people still don't know
Right.
that we are still there. We want to come up more visible side than this invisible.
Mr. Preventure, do we have a ability to lower reverb off of that mic, or is the Mr.
adjust that better.
Patel a little too close to it? So I think we get some vibration. It's hard to, it gets a little muffled, correct? All right. So let's look at the purpose of this, and as you're describing, I think that the service that you're trying to give to the church, the library, is admirable, but I think it's more useful that we look at this purpose and what you're trying to do as it pertains to the ordinances in that area, if we can. I think, as I recall, when you were here for the tavern itself, there was, I know that Mr. Burgess had feelings, expressions one way, and I think the board had a variation, but we understood that the transition of time from the establishment of the store and how the zoning ordinances had transitioned, I think that we could recognize that perhaps the use of the tavern was beneficial in superseding the ordinances and saw that purpose as a useful purpose, as well as the dance studio down to the left, correct? some of the ordinances, restrictions could be somewhat onerous, and that's what this board prevails over. But noting and to Mr. Burgess's argument at that time in 2017, it fell into what was the historic aspect of that part of the community, and how much can you build into that. And I think that becomes the central argument to the sign. Now, my board members can dispute that, and they're certainly welcome to that, but I think that overall captures the theme of past approvals and what we need, what's relevant in this approval.
I think part of that was also we had a problem with the paving of the parking lot in the back, which wasn't theirs. It was, they had right to it because they had something, but we weren't sure if they would have it consistently over the life of when they needed it. That was our biggest.
Right, there was some innovative workings there in order to accommodate the tavern.
We were just trying to make sure that he understood the fact that, if someone else comes along and has that place, they could click it, so.
What's the size of this sign? It's 84 inches, so it's almost 7 feet in width. And what's the size of the sign that was up on the building currently? Probably smaller than that.
Yep, it is smaller. And the new freestanding sign, just for the record, is 42 square feet and 15 feet high. I would say that I don't think it's too much higher than the existing sign currently exists.
I see.
But it's probably maybe half the size-ish.
And notably, the argument to the specific ordinance is not the size of the sign, but it is the type of illumination, correct?
Correct.
And so why does this sign in its new position, as it's in its proposed position, not work versus the electronic digital aspect of it?
Well, the electronic digital that's what our variance request is for, right? And what we're saying is that there's multiple reasons to have this in East Derry for advertisement for, yes, the store and the tavern primary, no doubt. However, it is good for the community. It's good for a lot of things within that neighborhood even, and they're able to effectively advertise and promote this business comparably to other businesses in town. And the big argument I'd make is the historicity, to use that argument with us, the historicity of this complex or of this general store, to allow it to continue for decades and decades to come, I think is important. But they have to effectively compete with the people right downtown here. I think it's worth noting. I do want to talk about the parking lot maybe in the back. So the parking lot, there's a full lease agreement with the Upper Village Hall.
So that was back
That's
then.
very amicable.
Yeah.
And it worked out fantastic.
Okay.
So, for what that's worth.
I would say we want to keep up with the modern business needs. That was the main idea, I guess.
Okay. Anybody else on the board have any questions?
Yes, I do.
Mr. Tripp?
Me too.
I'm a little confused about what exactly you're asking for, because Section 165-101.1 speaks to signs in residential districts. So you're asking for a relief from all the conditions in this section?
No.
I can
Maybe
probably-
when it comes to Mr. Mackey,
Say
he can
again?
help. Maybe when it comes to Mr. Mackey, he can help enlighten us on this, because there was some confusion when I was asking for that because of a district.
Yeah, Mr. Mackey, if you'd like to help us out.
Yeah, I think Mr. Tripp is right. I mean, if you look in our sign ordinance, because technically this property is in a residential zone. So you've got a combination of what would be a pre-existing non-conforming use, but that being said, there have been some variances granted over the years. But when they built an addition in the back, and then back in 2017, came back to the board and asked permission to have the tavern there. So it's a unique property, but it is located in a residential zoning district. So if you look at the signs that are permitted in a residential zoning district, you won't see this type of a sign that would be allowed, given those are basically dealing with residences, not pre-existing uses that are, basically commercial uses. So we put that section in just to make sure that that was going to be covered. And then the other section that's cited, 101.11, again, that deals specifically with the electronic message center sign that they're asking for, because again, those are limited to only 3 districts in town. And the board's had other requests periodically for other areas where it may not be allowed by right, but the board has certainly dealt with that, so that answers your question.
Mr. Tripp?
Somewhat, but like I said, it's one of these things that the request appears to ask for relief for all the conditions in this section.
I don't think it does.
Oh.
I think it's specific to this sign at this location where the regulations are within the residential zone, not specific.
Oh, all right, so, so the sign itself, it appears that only the bottom portion of it is an electronic sign, is that correct?
The bottom portion?
The
Oh,
bottom
yeah.
7 by 3 is the electronic portion.
Yes,
Which
thank you.
deals with the other section.
Half of the sign.
So I would assume that, the section, 165.101.1, the conditions here are what you're striving to conform with, except when you want a variance. So, like I said, one of the conditions is that signs larger than 6 square feet had to be at least 10 feet from the front lot of the public way. And I assume that condition
Yes.
is met.
Yes.
All right. And so, which conditions in this section are you asking for a variance from?
Again, Richard, I think that what they're asking for is because if you look in that section
Yep.
regarding signs in residential districts, you won't see any allowance for this size of a sign, 42 square feet sign. So basically, that's what they're asking for.
So they're asking
It's
for
greater than
relief from
6 feet
the size of the sign.
within a residential district, correct?
Okay. Well, like I said, that clarifies things.
Yep.
Because if I don't know what exactly they're asking for, I have a hard time approving it. Do you follow me on that?
I do.
So I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just saying I should understand what it is you're asking for.
And I get it. And originally, sir, I was focusing in on the neighborhood commercial district, but evidently it's not germane to this. So I had some confusion when I was writing the application. Mr. Mackey helped me, and that's why we globally chose this section.
Yeah. All right. Well, and the other section that you're asking for relief from, it deals exclusively with the electronic message center. And I really don't have an issue with that, because I can understand that. So that's the questions, sum total of the questions I have presently.
Very good. Ms. Moran?
I believe my question was already answered. I was curious about the previous variance and if they had mentioned anything about signage.
I was here in 2017, but I can't quite remember, honestly.
I don't recall that.
I don't think so.
Talking anything about signage.
Assumed Donald would have remembered.
Yeah. See, they do have a very small, tasteful sign for the parking for East Erie Tavern, just small wooden sign, and we're not asked for anything there. That just shows a directional arrow to come back on the other side of of Upper Village Hall. That was permitted on the original site plan, so that's as much
And
as,
that's at the Upper Village Hall. That's not at the.
it's on
the
Upper Village Hall's
next
land.
door building.
Yep, and that was granted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Corbett?
No, Mr. Chair, you asked the question I had, which is the increase of the size of the sign. Otherwise, I have no questions at this time.
Okay, Mr. Dietzel?
In response to Mrs. Moore, I just reviewed the meeting minutes from 2017. There was no discussion of signage.
Very good, thank you.
It came at the
Mr.
planning
Chairman?
board level, if I can just interject, because I know it came up at some point. So it was the planning board level, because we had to denote where that sign should be located for the parking.
Right, but you're contending that was discussed?
Yes, but not the sign on the building, not
Right.
the sign, yeah.
No, I understand. And I think that the sign, the directional sign that's up on the other side of the rec building there, you know, the old hall,
Yep.
I'm not, that's not even in question at this
Right.
point.
Yep.
But I do believe that the size of the sign, though I understand somebody would like to have it out there so it's seen a little more, the size of it is certainly seemingly troublesome to me. The electronic digital aspect, I haven't come back to yet, but I will shortly once I know everybody's gotten a chance to give their feedback. Mr. Obimba, are you all set?
I'm all set, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Burgess?
Thank you. I have a couple of things I have questions of the sign. I don't think it's should be in a residential district, that's just my thoughts. But the way you're showing this being erected looks like it interferes with the stairs or ramp. Well, it
Nope,
looks-
it's on
that's-
the
that's
edge of
what-
a retaining wall.
Huh?
It's actually the edge of a ramp, but it's not on the ramp. So it's on the edge of it. It's not affecting that walkway at all.
It doesn't. You haven't,
Yeah, so it's
do you know what the space is between?
Yes, yeah, it'll be probably 8 feet, 8 to 9 feet. So there is when you go to the post office, the step on the post office. So from the last step to this sign is, I believe it's more than 8 to 9 feet.
I think it's,
I'm with the same, with the chairman, basically. The electronic sign in this neighborhood doesn't fit right for me. I saw the Taylor Library sign, which is just a regular little old square sign. It is basically, and the fact that it's in a historic and a residential area doesn't make me feel good.
I can, if I can rebut as we go, just to say, not rebut, but to continue the talk. In that, in the even though it's in the historical thing, there's no regulations, no federal regulations for
understand.
electronic messaging signs within historic. It's much more pertaining to the building itself and what you can and can't do in the building, and getting grants and things like that for building, for improvements and things like that. That's where historical can come from. The other thing is to say not to have such a big sign or big sign or whatever in a residential area. My argument would be to say that this store preceded a lot of the residences in this area completely. You know, it's been 200 years old. It's been a store. It's older than most stores in Derry, right? So the point is just to allow them to effectively compete with the other businesses in Derry and the surrounding area. So I think honestly, I think it's reasonable, as said.
Mr. Burgess, any follow-up?
No, I'm good now. I'm just,
You stated that it would only be lit up when you were open. What are your hours of operation?
7:30 to 9.
Thank you.
7:30 a.m. to 9 p.m. They do And imagine a tavern closing at 9 p.m., but that's what they do because it's a very family-oriented style establishment.
I use the upper room a lot and I don't hear anyone.
I wish to address I understand the existence of the building long-term. It's been there operating for a couple of centuries, and it predates a lot of the housing that's there. And understanding that in that location, you have a church across the street, you have an automobile repair center and body shop next to it. I don't know if the dance club is still there
They're still there.
in the building. And we were equally as restrictive in following that point, the point that we're discussing here, in granting that usage for the dance studio. My point is that you've got a dance studio, an automobile repair center, a church across the street, a library across the street. It's almost like a miniature commercial zone, correct?
Correct.
But to your point about the competition that you're referring to is in a whole different segment of the community. And go ahead.
Of the businesses, of the things you just mentioned, those aren't a restaurant or a store, right? So my point is,
Hospital, right?
yeah.
Sorry.
But competing with, so people know, hey, there's a store here. Oh, there's a restaurant here.
Yeah, I get that. And I think that even with the hospital, that was a couple of approaches and modification, and that was a hospital. Now we see this purpose of a digital sign being utilized, but your point is this has to compete with other businesses in the community, but where are those businesses in the community? They're on a main thoroughfare. They're on the downtown where there's economic development happening. The tavern is in a family-orientated community with houses right behind it, and the argument really comes down to, do we think that the electronic digital messaging sign changes the neighborhood? And is it appropriate for that neighborhood? And that's really the focus of this discussion,
Sure.
other than size.
And I would not disagree with you other than where this particular sign is located and going to be advertising. It's, in my opinion, literally going to affect nobody from a neighborhood, from a housing standpoint. And I think you'd see that if once public is called, I don't think anybody's going to complain about this.
Do all 100 people on that petition have to speak?
No, I don't think so.
I think we see that point.
The room, I don't know.
All right, well, I just wanted to hone in on what the focus is, right? Testimony versus what we're evaluating here, right?
Sure.
And will this affect the neighborhood, the community, and understanding that one approval is not a precedent for another. However, how does the makeup of this historic area want to be seen? I don't think we can deny that there's enough traffic there to provide
Direction.
direction or what is there. I think there's certainly enough traffic there to generate that. And I have to say, do I think that electronic digital messaging sign, is that going to change the occupants to the tavern? And advertising what the church supper is, or if I understood Mr. Patel's testimony, does advertising the usage or what programs Taylor Library are going to have, is that going to be beneficial to the tavern as well? So in my mind, I want to take those pieces off the table and not ignore the commentary that Mr. Patel has shared along with your own.
Understood.
And feel free to rebut as we go along.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Corbett.
just to piggyback off where you are, you kind of triggered a thought in my mind. Just went all the way back to an argument Mr. Coppolo and I had years ago regarding one of the electronic signs in town. And specifically, I remember his concern being, what happens in the event of a vape shop moving into town and wanting to put up an electric sign, sharing that, something that would be in the minds of the children. Obviously being familiar with the store, and all the great offerings that's there, even as a cigar smoker, we do have the humidor. There is the little bit of I don't necessarily want to call it the head shop area, but the accessories that are available. Are these the type of things that we're going to see on the sign, or what exactly are we envisioning for the messages that are going to be shared?
Okay, so the major thing we have will be on a sign is for our town. That's really behind the building. That was our main concept. It will be like Monday martini, as I said, Tuesday Indian night, Wednesday trivia night, weekend special, prime rib special. We are doing North Shore roast beef. Those the purpose we want to use it. That's the main purpose. We are not using for any, like, we're not gonna have buy 2-pack Marlboro and save 50 cents off. That's not our purpose, and that's not we are looking for. We are looking more on a town side, as we mentioned again, Craig, that we are family-friendly restaurant, and we are also in a neighborhood, and we never did anything like that's disrespect the historic district or anything kind that. We've been there 20 years, like most stores used to sell adult magazine and this and that, make so much money. It costs you only $1 to get the adult magazine or DVDs and those, and you can sell for $40-50. But we never did that. We are in neighborhood and we do respect entire that area. So that what you want to see all those stuff that is like young children and all that. You won't see all those stuff over there. But 95% you will see majority of our town sign, and probably all the food area, like buy 2 subs, save $2, buy steak and cheese, buy roast beef, and those kind of stuff, like trivia nights, comedy nights, and also represent next door neighborhood like Upper Village Hall, library, church, and all that. So this is the purpose will be used. Not for like a tobacco and alcohol, buy 30-pack and save $3. That's not gonna happen. We will still respect. We've been there 20 years. We do respect historic district and a neighborhood because we know we are in a neighborhood. Like if you come to our town, it closes at 9 o'clock. Sharp 9 o'clock is done. 8:30 you walk in, they say this is it, all done. You can't get walking in. There is no fighting in a parking lot. You can talk to Derry police. There is no incidents, no drama, nothing. We are pretty strict about that, and we know we are in a neighborhood, so we won't let anything happen over there. Same way, if you give us permission on electronic sign, you never ever see all those stuff on the signage.
All right, well,
That was our main purpose.
So one thing I'll just add, not really add to that, but help the board maybe, because I know what he's saying is true in terms of not advertising the things that Mr. Corbett just brought up, which is absolutely appropriate to ask. But how can that be policed? How can that 25 years from now or whenever be policed? Because this variance will go with that sign. So I don't know how you can talk appropriate advertisement, right? How that can be policed. But that's just a food for thought that I kind of want you guys to be thinking if you do allow this, because we're willing to make it appropriate advertisement.
Mr. Corbett, did you have any follow-up?
No, I appreciate both of those answers. Obviously, Mr. Patel answered with what I was hoping to hear, and I by no means mean to product shame or anything in the store. Just would have been remiss knowing that was the exact topic that Mr. Koffalo brought up during that argument. To Mr. Peliquin's point, I remember that's exactly what we struggled with at the time too, of, how do you police what would be deemed appropriate, and what will continue to be deemed appropriate in the future. But I think understanding what the intent is, having kind of the intent on the record, I think that I have something that makes me comfortable at least. So
Okay.
I'm good.
Mrs. Moore, and you were going to say?
How often will the message center change? Is it gonna be one thing for the week, or is it multiple?
At some point, we should, Peter March, who's the owner of New Hampshire Signs, he might be able to speak to that, just so that you guys get exact answers, because I don't want to try to say how it can be repeated, how it can be phased in and out. Traffic alert, you know what I mean? People trying to read a sign and drive, because that's an important question.
There's a regulation in the town that gives you a certain, I can't remember, 9 seconds, 6 seconds?
I believe it's 5 seconds in between.
5 seconds.
I would just add that should the board entertain this, one of your conditions should be that it must be operated in compliance with that section
Yeah.
165.101.11, which gives you the timing, it gives you the lumens and the ambient light, so that does regulate them.
There's a certain section that it's in there on the sign
Sure.
regulation that allows for a certain time period.
Because
Or you
understand,
can flip it, yeah.
we want it to be safe, tasteful,
Yeah,
and
you don't wanna
not.
be
Yep. So
flipping
I
it too
want to make
fast,
sure we're
it's
on the
gonna
same page,
screw people up, yeah.
what we're asking.
Just to add to that.
I have a
that-
question.
That section governs how the sign can go from one message to another. It prohibits scrolling. It doesn't allow animation.
No.
So it does regulate them.
Right.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mackey. Mr. Tripp?
I guess I'm going to go back to, what exception are you asking for from the other section? 165.101.11. Is the only exception you're asking for is where the electronic message signs are permitted?
Before we try to answer that,
Okay.
we have Peter March just speak to the electronic message signs?
Okay.
Technology?
Mr. Marsh, I believe you might have been here for the hospital.
Yes, and Daigle Plumbing.
Welcome back.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Peter March, New Hampshire Signs, 66 Gold Ledge Avenue, Auburn, New Hampshire. So I'm happy to answer any technological questions on the sign, and also maybe steer the board towards some motions that may help. Obviously, it runs a message. It's similar to a PowerPoint message. This will allow graphics as well as text.
Well, one of the things that the ordinance does not permit is graphics, I believe. Is that true?
I don't believe
So
so.
it depends what's meant by graphics. It doesn't allow animation.
Yes.
You can certainly have digital pictures and
No.
photos, things like that. So as long as they're not scrolling or animated.
So if you're familiar with PowerPoint, you can sometimes put an animated waving flag or something in the graphic. I don't think that's the intent here. The other difference is that when the message changes, a number of signs actually have some sort of effect to change it. Again, PowerPoint will screen left or screen right or have some flashes or whatever. I think maybe an appropriate condition would be that when it changes from one graphic to another, that there is no transition, is the correct term. The other thing I'd like to mention is that the sign automatically brightens and dims with ambient light conditions, so it continually follows light, and it's never, this is a quality sign, it's not a glaring sign at all, so it'll be appropriate for the light conditions.
So, Mr. Tripp, I think some of the questions that you had asked came in with Mr. Mackey's advice, which was that the board mentions or stipulates that the luminance, the time frame, what's on it follows the current structure of our ordinances that stipulate such things.
I understand that, but
Got it.
unfortunately, the variance request, it just is a blanket, request for a variance from that section, which is where
think,
all these
Mr.
things are.
Tripp, I think the request deals with that sentence where it talks about where they're allowed.
Yeah.
Because this is MDR. I guess none of it none of the others would apply, provided the applicant will operate, and the board makes it a condition
Yeah.
that it will operate per those,
Yeah.
per those stipulations, I guess.
But like I said, we need to know what we're approving before we approve it.
Well, and in this case, the two ordinance stipulations address the size of the pylon sign and the electronic message center. You have the motion in front of you.
I do.
That would stipulate it. Perhaps we'll separate it in a different way in the future, but those are what it's addressing, the size of both the sign itself and the electronic message center.
Right.
And so do we think it's appropriate to have a sign this size right outside of the post office there? Or should it be diminished in size? And likewise, should there be an electronic message center on it?
Can I
Zone where
just
it's
note one thing, that the Patels do own the post office as well, part of their building, for what it's worth.
Very good. Everybody knows where that post office is. That gets mail.
Yeah, it's true.
I truly thought it was for show.
I'm sorry again, Mr. Corbett?
Until kind of Mr. Patel's point, I guess, until he mentioned it earlier, I truly thought it was for show, however many years I've lived here.
All right, well, good enough.
It's got its own zip code.
Yeah. Mr. Bimba, you have anything?
Mr. Tripp kind of alluded to my questions on
right,
the
and
kinds of variants. I'm all set.
And Mr. Dietzel, you're all set as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I'm not quite at a point where I've satisfied all my questions. We've had a lot of back and forth and some clarity to make. But if everyone is all set with their questions right now, we could, and I think we've received adequate input relative to our staff and any questions that might be directed towards code enforcement. We can take a motion to, or we don't need a motion, we can direct the meeting towards public input to see if we can build more of a consensus of where we want to go. You're on board with that, Mr. Burgess?
Looks good to me.
All right, good enough. So at this point, we're going to take public input, and of course, the applicant and his representative have opportunity to rebut anything that may come up here. Anybody who wishes to speak in favor of this application, this would be your time to be heard. Now, noting that there is a petition that has been circulated, and this board has the names of many. If there's opportunity where someone has expressed something, we just ask that you align with them unless you have new information that you think this board might want to hear. So we also have some phone numbers posted on the screen. Mrs. Moran, if you'd like to read those.
To participate in this meeting, you may call 646-558-8656 and enter in meeting ID number 323-909-140.
All right. And in the event that there's any technical problems,
If there's any technical problems, you may call 603-845-5585.
all right, very good. Thank you very much. And so likewise, we'll make that call to the room here. Anybody wish to support this application, this would be your opportunity to come forward. Welcome up. And good evening.
Good evening. My name's Timothy Harding. I'm 1 Pond Road.
And welcome.
Thank you. I just wanted to come here tonight to say that, first of all, I think it goes without saying, Sam and Lena have done a great job in the community and the neighborhood since the tavern's been here. I was here in 2017, approved, helped, gave my support for the tavern, and I haven't been disappointed. I think they run a wonderful store. I think they're good for the community. I think they are putting this sign with the right intentions. I don't think it would be a detriment to the community. And my only concern is if he advertises the prime rib on Sunday night, it might sell out before I can get there. So I don't know if I want to be in favor or not.
I understand.
Seriously, yeah, I just wanted to come here and say I think it's would be wonderful for our community to have that up in East Derry, if you want to call it East Derry, but I'm in favor of it, and it's my neighborhood.
Okay, very good, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Anybody else?
Thanks, Tim.
All right, seeing no one else stand up. Anybody out there, Mr. Preventer?
Seeing none rise, Mr. Chair, but we have seen a few folks enter due to the prompt to do so, and we might want to remind them if they're on the phone to raise their hand, they would press star 9,
Very
and then
good.
to unmute themselves, they'd press star 6.
All right, well, thank you, folks. If you heard Mr. Preventer, please press star 9 if you want to get into the meeting. And if you are here to speak in favor of this, we can come back to you. At this point, we'll take anybody that wishes to speak in opposition to this application. This would be your time to come forward as well. Same rules apply. Press star 9 to be heard, and we'll get you into the meeting. And anybody here in the room wish to speak in opposition? Seeing no gestures there. Anybody out there, Mr. Preventer, wish to come in?
We do have someone who has raised their hand. Their phone number have the last 3 digits of 017. We'll go ahead and allow them to speak at this time to identify.
All right, thank you. Good evening, caller.
They're currently muted. We will ask them to unmute. There we go.
Caller, just press star 6.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, thank you. Michael Otis of 65 Old Chester Road.
Your name is?
Michael Otis, O-T-I-S.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Very, very much in favor of Sam and his businesses. However, the electronic message sign is what bothers me. They're allowed in 3 districts in the town, and MDR is not one of them. Moreover, the store and tavern are located in the historic district of East Derry. It's recognized on the National Register of Historic Places. Simply put, looking at criteria 1 about the essential character of the locality, an electronic message sign doesn't belong there. Now, having said that, I don't have any heartburn over a sign in front of the store. It's a non-conforming business, been there forever. Putting up a sign, fine. An electronic one, not so much. That's all I have to say.
Okay, very good. Any questions for the Mr. Otis? Seeing no gestures there. Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. Otis.
Thank you.
Anybody else there, Mr. Preventer?
Seeing no one else rise at this time, Mr.
All
Chair.
right, good enough.
Chair, I just want to note for the record, he is not a direct abutter. He's almost a mile and a half away.
Very good, thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Moran. All right, well, very good. If there's no one else that wishes to speak at this time, we can invite the applicant back up, and we'll consider the board has met its obligation of statutes for public input. Gentlemen, anything you wish to say in closing or for wrap up? Give us more direction?
Just it's really just a repeat in that our clear argument is, yes, well, this might not be allowed in this district. This is a little mini neighborhood, as it was described, a little mini business district. And there is great historicity, no doubt, with this building and within East Derry and as a whole. And we honestly feel this is a betterment to the business, to allow it to be most effectively competing against other like businesses in town. It predates most of them, and this is the most effective way to continue in a competitive way with other like businesses in town. It's unique in that it's been there a long, long time. So we feel it's a really good proposal. and would like your consideration.
Okay.
Anything else from you, Sammy?
Not much. The only thing I just want to keep repeating that we want to keep up with the modern business needs. Like we know it's been 200 years old. Now we are in a generation that there is a AI exists now, and we want to do something. So we want to come up with the modern business needs to compete with other businesses as well, to grow our businesses and stay there longer as much as we can.
Right.
So let's go back to the content briefly. And, you know, we have, I guess, I don't like the idea of censorship, correct? But who knows where the store will be in another 100 years. Sam could be retired out on some Caribbean island, and someone else could have taken this over, right?
Lena, for sure.
I mean, I think that the electronic message thing takes that question away, right? You never have to worry about what the content is, or nor do you need to worry about making rules of censorship. And understanding Mr. Patel's desire and need, sometimes you might say, well, if you're going to build it, you need to figure out how to direct them in, correct? And maybe there was some short thinking there, I don't know.
Fair enough.
My understanding of the tavern, which I've visited a few times and not been disappointed, is that it kind of self-generates, and that people that are familiar with the area will go to it. And I have a hard time believing that electronic message center is going to create more traffic to the tavern, which its entrance is down around the back of the building. Though I can see that an advertisement, a sign in itself might. So I'm at a crossroads with that. And so I just kind of get this uneasy feeling about an electronic digital messaging center sign for the reasons I've already stated. Even with Parkland, you know, going by there and seeing the lighted sign, I think one of the failures in its first attempt to have an messaging, there were a few there. There was the lighting ability and the inability to get proper answers to that. It was also in that stretch originally, I think, to really realize what the significance of knowing how much of a wait time there was going to be to get into the emergency room when the next closest hospital is 15 or 20 minutes away, right? I don't remember how that application eventually prevailed, but these other issues about lumens and operational time were resolved. And that was at an earlier time when you were starting to just see these signs pop up more and more. But it does bring me back to, do I think that the electronic digital sign is going to do anything any more than seeing the broad letters up there in a more Yankee Craftsman type sign design there? It's fitting with that neighborhood, East Derry Tavern and General Store. I think that kind of says it all. So that's where I'm at. You're welcome to answer that and before the board goes into deliberation.
My only statement might come back to more community focused. If this sign can and will be used for, and I know there's no guarantees in this even for the future, but certainly short term and within the Patel's span, will be a good advertisement of sort for East Derry in various events, whether it's across the street, next door, or other things. It's allowing an opportunity for them to continue in their excellent community support in so many ways. And, you know, that's their desire. Back in the day, of course, you'd have the stick-on letters and whatever, you know, that would do it. But this is the modern era that allows these type of things and a pleasing, eye-centered readability of a sign. And Yes, their tavern is successful based on word of mouth, but it's not jam-packed every single night by any means. This will allow them to be more effective to increase their business, which they do need to do, so, for sure. And just advertising to the passerbys that don't even know it exists, because I guarantee you that is the case, as Sam has tested. So we feel this is a betterment for all those reasons.
Okay.
I have one more
Mrs.
question, I'm
Moran?
sorry.
Yep.
The church across the street has a sign pretty close to the road. Do you know if that one lights up? The,
No.
If it lights up, it's by spotlights. I think it might, from 2 angles, if I can kind of recall.
okay.
Yeah.
I think you're correct.
Mm.
It used to be common with all churches, right?
Sure. The old-fashioned light-up signs.
Wonder if they could get more people in if they had an electronic messaging sign.
Probably, truthfully.
That might have kept that church up the road from you open, right?
Just trying to help your
I want to
cause.
say one more thing on that, Chair. That so we have a customer come in, dine in with us, and they always say, "Oh my God, you have a great food, this and that, all that." And then they ask the same question always and always. They say, "How come you are not packed? Why you are not packed? Your food is amazing. We can come any day here. But every other restaurant we go, they not even compare to you, and they are always packed. They were packed, that's why we came here. Now we know how good it is." So how we can tell them? There is some kind of message we need to tell them that we are here. Sometimes we have multiple events going on. We have a prime rib on Sunday, and we have a trivia, we have a music night Sunday. So how many signage we can leave outside that, okay, we have a prime rib, you have so many letters you can put it on. But by electronic sign, I can say, hey, Sunday we have a music night and we have a roast beef night at the same time, prime rib night on a Sunday. So we can do multiple events through messaging sign that we can tell community the awareness. Sometimes what happened, we put music sign outside, but if we don't put the prime rib sign outside, then prime rib is sitting there. We do prime rib, right? Then nobody's come for music. Then they say, "Oh my God, this guy came and play and we never knew about it." So we wanna let people know, like as we do multiple events, like as I told you again, that this is not just mom and pop 200-year-old general store. We have multiple events, multiple things going on. So we need some kind of message center to show people that this is what's going on, and people get awareness of it, and we get maximum advantage of it as well.
Well said.
All right, very good. Anybody else have anything? Seeing no gestures there, I guess we can take a motion to go into
I'll make the
deliberation.
motion to go into deliberative session.
Thank you, Mr. Burgess.
Second?
Mr. Tripp has a second. All in favor of deliberation, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Okay, who would like to lead off? Mr. Corbett, you out there, you wish to strike first?
Yeah, obviously very familiar with the property, and I think overall I've been supportive of electronic signs. A lot for the reasons that Mr. Patel said. Mr. Pelican's been stating that I do think for businesses to keep up nowadays, and especially to attract younger customers, really just stand out that it is something that's necessary. Looking at the size of the sign, while it is substantially larger than what's up there, I think overall the location and how much of it's being used as the electronic portion isn't too bad. I think overall the work that's been done to the general store and the tavern, it's fit in. I do have concerns about an electronic sign in this area of town being the historical district, but with all the upgrades that they've done to this point, it has been tasteful, it has blended in. So I do trust that it would be done up to the same standard, that it wouldn't really stand out in a negative way. So I'm overall in favor of it. I do have the concern, again, just how do you, to your point, you don't want to be over censor, but how do you ensure that in the future, somewhere down the line, in whomever's hands, that the message family friendly. That's my larger concern, not for today, not for the next, 5, 10, 15 years, but just down the road when it's no longer in the Patel's name.
Thank you, Mr. Corbett. Mr. Burgess?
Yeah, I'm still not in favor of this at the moment. I don't think it's, I don't think it falls within the spirit of the ordinance, or, I don't think it's in the public's interest. I don't see it here.
Okay. Mr. Tripp?
Well, looking back at the motion, I can understand, what is being asked for, which had been my primary issues, during the questioning. And I believe that I understand better what exactly is being asked for, in this, under this case. So I really don't have any problems.
Okay. Ms. Moran?
I have another outlook on it where I drive that area often. It's not well lit up, so when cars are backing out of the East Derry store, it's hard to see until sometimes it's too late. So having that there, people would hopefully, they'd be maybe more on the lookout, and it's going to be lit up a little bit better. So that would be my hope.
Okay. All right. Mr. Mackey, can you help me out here? Is 101.1, is that the sign itself or the size of it?
101.1 would be the size. 101.11A would be governing the operation of the electronic message center sign.
All right, thank you very much. What we'll do is we'll read the motion as one, but the board can segregate its votes, one to the size and one to the electronic message service. And if you just want to approve the whole thing as it's presented initially on the motion, you can do that. It'll be all encompassing. So that being said, do we have any structures to this motion at all? We have a sign permit will be required. Does anybody have any concerns to content or any other instructions?
Do we want to keep the same size that they're asking for, or is there a different size that's more comfortable?
I care not to get into restructuring that. That would be up to the applicant if the motion fails to redesign in that regard. I did want to take Mr. Mackey's direction and on condition 2, the electronic messaging shall comply with the ordinances stipulated of messages shall comply with the ordinance stipulations of luminance and intervals. Hang on, writing as I'm trying to think, and it's just virtually impossible at this late time of the day with ordinances. Do you have that, Mrs. Moran?
Can I double check? Can I copy off your paper?
Let me just, the electronic messages shall comply with stipulations of the ordinance.
Thank you.
The ordinance, and you can, and that's luminance and intervals, etc. Okay. And interval, etc. Okay, that takes care of that. Anything else additional? Anybody from the board wish to structure that second condition or third? Okay, good enough. That motion is structured, so anybody, all in favor of exiting deliberation, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none. Ms. Moran, you have a motion to read.
I do, thank you. I make a motion on case number 24-128, owner J. Goga Realty Incorporated, to grant a variance to the terms of Article 12, Section 165-101.1 and Sections 165-101.11A of the Town of Derry zoning ordinance to allow the installation of a 42-square-foot pylon sign, which will include a 21-square-foot electronic messaging center sign, parcel ID 39033 MDR, as presented with the following conditions. We have two. One, a sign permit will be required. Two, the electronic messaging shall comply with the stipulations of the ordinance in the luminance, intervals, etc. And that concludes the reading of the motion. If I could have a second.
I'll second it.
Mr. Burgess seconds that motion. It's on the floor. Let's introduce the finding of facts. And the finding of facts on case number 24-128, Promised Land Survey. The board found that the applicant is in the medium density residential district. The applicant received a variance to operate a restaurant in 2017. The property is in the historic district, and that shall do unless anybody wishes to amend or add to that. No gestures there. Very good. So that motion is in place. All in favor of moving the motion. Also, the board also includes all facts found in the meeting minutes for this application, incorporates all meeting minutes into its finding of facts and decisions. Therefore, all in favor of moving that motion for a vote, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Very good. Mr. Corbett, and keep in mind that we've segregated the two variance requests so they can be separated or voted in whole. Mr. Corbett, what say you?
I vote yes to both, Mr. Chair.
Very good. Mr. Burgess?
I'm going to vote no. I think the variance will be contrary to the public interest. There's a couple of intersecting roads there that I think could have a problem with trying to observe the sign as they're driving along. And I don't think the spirit of the ordinance is observed either.
Very good. Mr. Tripp?
I vote yes.
Very good. Mrs. Moore?
And Chair, I vote yes as well.
On the entirety?
Yes, please.
Okay, very good. The chair will vote yes on the size, but no to the electronic messaging. However, the application does prevail regardless of my vote in its entirety. So congratulations to both of you. Anybody, of course, aggrieved by this decision has 30 days to ask this board for recourse. After that would be Superior Court.
Great deliberation and really good discussion. We appreciate your time and
You always
expertise.
bring a good one discussion to the table as well, Mr.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Have a
Thank
good
you
evening.
so much. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I look forward to seeing your sign,
All right, you will.
you know, and seeing what you've got on it, because then we'll come in and complain.
Thank you so much. Thank you, guys.
All right.
Good luck.
Really?
Now you can write.
No.
I don't ever want to write in your packet.
All right, so we have meeting minutes for September 5th, 2024. I know there's some changes there. I would ask that we table the approval of those minutes.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you very much.
I'll second it.
Mr. Obimba and Mr. Tripp seconds that. All in favor of tabling the minutes for September 5th, 2024, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, very good. We'll come back to those later. We have nothing in other business, and we have nothing in correspondence. Usually, we get the Crime and Punishment magazine as opposed to the
Town and Country?
Town and Country. So if that magazine finds its way back to us, you can insert it bi-monthly if it happens to come back. Other than that, I have no other business. How are we looking for the next scheduled
Do we have
meeting?
anything for next week?
Excuse me?
Do we have anything further?
Yes, we have 2 cases for the
Okay.
next meeting, yes.
Very good. And Mr. Dietzel asked earlier, very inquisitively, about an insert that's in the packet. Mr. Tripp brought to our attention the, Mr. Tripp, would you like to explain it? I don't need to explain it for you.
What?
The Epsom Board of Adjustment. Mr.
Yes.
Tripp brought this to our attention from the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission about a couple of months ago, and I just got around to reviewing it this week, so I had it inserted into your packet just for reflection, so you are welcome to read it at your leisure. Okay, anything else? Good?
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
On Tuesday night, the town council appointed a new member to our board.
And that new member will come on his own, okay? Thank you.
Yep.
All right, and if there's no other business, let's take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, very good.
I'll
All in
second it.
favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Very good, that's it. We're adjourned. Have a good evening, everybody.
Hang on.